Region 2 is composed of 5 provinces, namely the Valley provinces of Cagayan and Isabela, the mountain provinces of Quirino and Nueva Vizcaya, and the island province of Batanes. The region hosts 4 chartered cities of Cauayan, Ilagan, Santiago, and Tugigaraw. Most of the land area is situated on the valley between the Cordilleras and the Sierra Madre mountain ranges. Cauayan, Ilagan, and Santiago City is part of the province of Isabela, while Tuguegarao City is the capital of the province of Cagayan and the regional center of Cagayan Valley. The culture of Cagayan is showcased in museums, historical buildings, and archaeological sites spread across the province. In Solana, the Neolithic archaeological sites in Lana have yielded stone tools used as early as 2,000 years back. Isabela has one of the highest literacy rates in the world at 97%. Most Isabeleños, especially those in the urban centers, speak and understand both English and Filipino. Despite the assimilation of most of Isabela's people into the mainstream of Philippine culture, some ethnic artistic expressions have survived until today. Ibanag literacy tradition have survived in the form of old songs, proverbs, and poems that are still sung today, accompanied by indigenous musical instruments like the lilet and palukpok or pakepak. The Ilongots and the Dumagats are the original inhabitants of the province, which used to be the forest region of Nueva Vizcaya. These tribal groups roamed the hinterlands, building their huts in the heart of the jungle. The Ilongots used to be a feared tribe because of their head-hunting ritual, which coincides with the blooming of the red flower of the bagbag tree. The province of Nueva Vizcaya is a secular province with a wide range of religions, languages, traditions, customs, and is a home to 18 indigenous people, which include the prominent tribes of the Gadangs are distinguished for having elevated beadwork to an art form. Unique among northern Luzon communities, the Gadangs are lavish with their use of beadwork. Gadang women are fond of wearing seed beads around their heads, necklaces, and wrists, but glass beads and precious stones are especially prized. The Dumagas are one of the major groups of indigenous people living in the southern Tagalog region south of Manila. The Dumagats inhabit the fertile Sierra Madre ranges on Quezon Province's northern tip. The Isinays are a homogeneous group of people indigenous to an area of Nueva Vizcaya composed of the municipalities of Aritao, Bambang, and Dupax del Sur. The Kalanguya, indigenous people, are a distinct subgroup of Ifugao wet rice agriculturists who live the mountainous area of northern Luzon. Batanes have a literacy rate of 95%. The Ibatan retain quite a number of its distinct cultures. Payuan and Yaro are work groups that until now are mainstays of community and farm work. The Bakul is also distinctly Ibatan. It is a woman's headgear that covers the head and back, keeping the wearer cool during the long hours of work in the field.
Traditions in Batanes. The houses. The Spaniards introduced large-scale production of lime for the construction of the now famous traditional Ivatan stone houses, exceptionally thick cogon roofs that could withstand the strongest typhoon. Religion. Today, the Ivatan are basically Catholic. Their religious devoutness can be attributed to the persistent and dedicated works of the early Dominican priests. However, there are a growing number of other Christian denominations, especially in the capital town. Regardless of this, the Ivatans still believe in the influence of the world of the Anitus, ghost or soul of dead ancestors. Although they do not worship them, they conduct rituals and offerings to appease or placate on Anitu. Kinship. The family is still the strongest social unit among the Ivatan. Extended families are still widely accepted among many Ivatan households. Because of the constant threat from the elements, the Ivatan has to rely on its close family ties or kinsmen and friends for support. Tradition in Cagayan. Clothing. They were simple clothes. Old women wore fan and kimono, while men used camisa, the chino, or the barong tag. The Japanese have influence. They sing old songs, proverbs, and poems alongside puzzles, melodies, and the vocabulary produced by Ibanags. Before marriage, Ilocano children will ask for approval of the same set of parents first. Parents decide if they want to agree to let their children get married. It was his parents who would pay the dowry and finance the marriage. An argument is when a boy expresses his desire for the girl to marry his parents.
Fernando Mamuri Maramag was a Filipino poet, journalist, editor, essayist, and teacher. He was born on January 21, 1893 in Ilagan, Isabela. His father was Rafael Maramag and his mother was Victoria Mamuri, a Spanish mestiza. At the age of 15, Maramag went to study at the Philippine Normal School, now Philippine Normal University. He later transferred to the University of the Philippines where he graduated. In UP, Maramag wrote for the school paper and soon became the editor-in-chief. Maramag worked as an editor for various publications including the Manila Tribune, Rising Philippines, the Philippine Herald, and the National Weekly. Maramag also worked for the Philippine government as the chief of the Publications Division of the Department of Justice. He later served as the technical assistant to Manuel L. Quezon, then president of the Philippine Senate. During his stay in UP, he became classmates with Jose Hilario and Pilar Hidalgo Lim. When he was 21, Maramag became the principal at the prestigious Instituto de Manila. He also taught as an English professor at UP and at San Juan de Letran. Maramag married Constancia Ablaza, and they had 6 children. He is considered the country's first important poet in English. Records show that his works dominated the college folio from December 1910 to November 1912 and are Datos Filipino Poetry 1924. A poet and essayist, Maramag translated Ibanag folk songs into English such as the Cagayano Neighbor Song, a translation of an orphan song, and Cagayano Peasant Song. His poems include To a Youth, The Atheist, and Moonlight on Manila Bay. His essays were anthologized in Leopoldo Yabes's Filipino Essay in English 1910 to 1954. He passed away on October 23, 1936. On January 21, 1983, a commemorative marker was installed in his hometown in Isabela to honor his contributions to Philippine literature.
The rural maid Fernando Maramag has produced well over 50 poems, the most well-known of which is The Rural Maid. It is written in Maramag's own manner. You will begin to recognize the unifying thread that unites his other poems if you read a few of them. It's a poetry written by someone who is completely smitten with someone.
The Rural Maid by Fernando M. Maramag. They glance with mate when first we met, had left a heart that aches for thee. I feel the pain of fond regret they heart, perchance is not for me. We parted, though we met no more. My dreams are dreams of thee, fair maid. I think of thee, my thoughts implore, the hours my lips on thine are laid. Forgive these words that love impart, and pleading bear the poet's breast. And if a rose with thorns thou art, yet on my breast that rose may rest. I know not what to name thy charms, thou art half human, half divine. And if I could hold thee in my arms, I know both heaven and earth were mine.
The speaker's sentiments for the person he has only met once are completely romantic. Though he is desperate to see her once more, he is aware that it might not even happen. He can stop thinking about her and daydreams about holding her. The poem's use of the term rural maid may be a translation of the term probinsya. The Rural Maid is a lyric poem that follows the structure of a sonnet. The poem also has a masculine rhyme. Furthermore, its meter is an iambic pentameter.
Analysis. He was a well-known poet and journalist. His editorial writings exerted great influence on the various phases of Filipino way of life. One of his works is The Rural Maid, which is a lyrical poem that follows the structure of a sonnet. The poem also has a masculine rhyme. It's a poem by someone who has fallen head over heels over someone. The term rural maid, as used in the poem, could be the equivalent of the Filipino term provinciana. The poet also shortened maiden to maid. The Rural Maid is Fernando M. Maramag's most well-known poem, and he has written well over 50 poems. It's written in the style that is uniquely Maramag's. Differentiate a rural maid from an urban maid. A rural maid is someone who grew up in the provinces. An urban maid is someone who grew up in the cities. This is the most basic difference between the two. Bay. Introduction. The poem Moonlight on Manila Bay was published in 1912. It was written by Fernando M. Maramag, who was a famous journalist and writer at that time. He wrote this poem to depict the drastic changes that took when the Americans colonized the Philippines. The author used strong words to describe what the country has experienced during the American colonization. In the first part of the poem, the Philippines was described as a picturesque country. According to the person speaking in the poem, the Philippines was once a radiant country untainted by foreign blood. He recalls the breathtaking seascape from memory and retailing it to the readers. The mood of the poem changed when he retells a painful memory. Part of the poem, there came the Americans, depicted by the bold Olympia that came to fight the Spanish tyranny but soon invaded the country. The war that took place stole the peacefulness of the country. However, the author says there is still hope for all the wounds to heal and the country can still regain its glory. This poem shows how the Filipinos love their country, and it promotes nationalism and optimism. The painful memories are also part of the history, and it was the reason why the Filipinos stood up and fought for their freedom.